Cool. Awesome. Samarpan, you got two more jokes, I think.
Yeah. So, okay, this is the second joke is uh, I've been bored in quarantine. I don't have anything to do, so I'm trying out new things. Like recently, I tried phone sex for the first time. I was really surprised I was able to fit the whole phone up my ass. Like that was great. So the the thing about this joke is I came up like we already discussed half of the concepts I used in this joke. The
Yeah.
first thought that I had was okay, the term phone sex is funny. Maybe I can do something like this, like I'm having sex with the phone, I'm putting my dick inside that port. But that would be the first level thought. That'd be too easy.
Yeah.
Okay, but the reason why I had that thought was because okay, this is like first of all, it's absurd me having sex with the phone. Then the second layer was if I'm able to fit my dick inside that port, that means I have a tiny dick. So it's a tiny dick joke as well.
Yeah.
Like I can play that whole Indian card, I
Yeah.
can do that. But then I thought, okay, these are too obvious. I'm taking the word phone sex literally.
Yeah.
What if I flip it? What if I do it the other way around? Literally. Okay, what if I put the phone up my ass? Then that'll be subversion of expectation of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's not just like a pun or yeah, so you're taking it literally. So the instead of you having sex with the phone is having sex with you. That's I get it.
Yeah.
Ah, that's interesting. That's interesting.
That's
And the
no, go
his
on.
so the idea behind this joke was like the way I came up with it was I had this other bit about phone sex, which was basically you shouldn't have phone sex if your network sucks. You're
If
on the
you,
call, and if your network sucks, if
If your
your
network's
network is really bad
yeah,
reception, so you're calling your girlfriend or something, and you're saying hello and she's like hello, and you guys are not able to hear each other, but you're still trying to go forward with that sex. So you're like hello, hello, can you hear me? So that was the thought behind it. Like that I had a separate bit that sometimes used to work, sometimes it failed. But then again, when I look closely into it, that word phone sex, that word was funny, so I changed it to this.
yeah, because that was just kind of like a recognition joke. Like, yeah, it's logical. Like, okay, you shouldn't have
Yeah.
sex, or you shouldn't have phone sex if your network is down.
Yeah.
And that's that seems like an easy joke to make.
Yeah.
Um, and just like you'll get laughter because of the act out, and I don't even think there's a twist there, is there? Like,
No.
yeah, that's probably why it didn't work. There was no surprise. It was just like it's the logical next thing,
it's a
basically.
filler.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so then you took that whole thing, and you write everything out, right, on a Word or
Yeah. Good. I also write it in a
word for
small
word, or
notebook.
do you write out like little pieces of it?
I write individual jokes and then I see how I can stitch them together. Like I don't really write my setup in a really wordy way. Like I'm like my setups will always be different, or they might change, depending on the audience.
Yeah,
What I realized was keep your jokes tight and your setup loose. So if you do that, what you'll do is you'll give them the illusion of spontaneity. Like you just came up with this, or you just, it'll look more conversational.
got
So
it.
I keep my set loose. I know what I'm saying. I'll just not try to say the exact same words every time. I'll just try to say it in a different way. Then because I know that when I get to the joke, they will laugh because the joke is tight. The way I'm getting to the joke is loose, but the joke is tight, so I will get that laugh.
Ah,
So,
So
did you say keep your setups long and your punchlines short?
no,
no,
What did
loose.
you
keep
That
your
that
jokes tight and your
loose.
setup loose.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah,
Like don't rehearse, don't mug up your setup.
Yeah. To keep it conversational makes sense.
but how do you keep it loose and also not wordy? That's the issue when I try to be conversational with my setups. oh yeah, the other day I was doing this and that and the other. Um, how do you know when to cut off your setup to and then go into the punch if you're saying the different word, different things, different.
uh, because I know what I'm saying. I'm just not saying, like, it's as if, okay, think of this joke. uh, there are multiple ways I can get into this joke. There's no one way. The thing that I'm doing right now is that I don't have anything to anything else to do in quarantine, so I'm trying out new things. That is one way of
Yeah,
going into it.
yeah,
Another way of going into it would be, like, uh, I discovered phone sex for the first time. That is another way. So there are these multiple tangents. Like, I have different setups for the same joke.
got it.
The reason why I do that is because if I have a different setup, okay, then I can maybe find a different joke for that setup as well, and it'll keep my brain more active.
Yeah,
Okay, how one thing that comics do is they have different punchlines for the same joke. What if we do it the other way around? What if we have different setup for the same joke? The
yeah,
joke doesn't change, the
yeah,
setups are different. So it's just one of those things that you, like, I'm just doing it for me. I'm not doing it to impress anyone. It's just
yeah.
for me. I want to see if I can do it or not. It's one
Makes
of those
perfect
Pretty
sense,
cool.
man.
That's crazy. You're
Oh,
all
that's
about
cool.
opposites, huh? That's crazy. And that's actually a good way to like look at any problem in your life. It's like if you've been doing the same thing over and over and over again, think of doing the exact opposite and see if that helps anything. It
Yeah,
could make things really, really bad too. So don't. This is not like a life advice podcast, but but yeah, that's interesting. Um, and I love that. Yeah, like they always say, make things conversational, but you break it down to a science of, yeah, why don't you just keep the punchline the same and then just figure out different setups and just make it more conversational. As long as you know how to exit your setup, you're fine. They'll laugh, right? And I
yeah,
think for that specific joke, as long as the word phone sex is in it, it doesn't actually matter what the hell the rest of the
yeah,
words are at all, you know,
yeah.
because your punchline is, I'm surprised the phone could fit up my ass, right? Wow, that's amazing. Okay, cool. And then your third joke. Did you want to add anything to that at all in terms?
That's
Okay.
pretty much it. So the third joke is basically, let me just search. The trick to not cry while cutting onions is to go to therapy. It's
That
just a
one
one
was
line.
my favorite. That was my favorite.
It's so
The
quick.
way I came up with this joke was basically, I was watching MasterChef, okay, and in that there was this episode where, like, everyone, like, the way they shoot MasterChef is, uh, it's this way. Like, first the judges are looking on the contestant what they are doing, and then close-ups of what the contestant are doing and their mind process, why they are cooking this, why they are cooking that. Then the judges go to the contestant and they have a sort of like a geeky conversation about this, like, okay, why are you adding this, why are you adding that? I'm adding this for color, I'm adding this for taste. They are getting too geeky about it. Everyone does. We get geeky about comedy, right? So
Yeah,
what if again this opposite comes into play? What if this situation was opposite of this one? What if I didn't know anything about cooking and I was on that show and I was trying to make shit up, to convince them that no, I'm a good, cook. The way you cut, the proper way to cut onions and not cry is to go to therapy. Deal with your emotions that way you want. Just make random bullshit up. Don't say the logical thing. The way to not cry while cutting onion is to wear spectacles or wash the onion or
yeah,
wear a fucking helmet or something.
yeah.
No, those are the logical answers.
Right.
Therapy is the exact opposite of that. And so I came up with like different punchlines as well, uh, the uh, the reason why you boil the potato is so that it dies before you eat it. Just a random thing. I got this one because I read this thing that apparently uh, the way they kill crabs is they put the crab in a boiling pan or whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
and they slowly raise the temperature.
right.
So the crab adjusts to the water temperature, and then eventually it dies.
Yeah,
So I took that logic and added into an inanimate uh, vegetable. Okay,
right. Yeah,
the potato is dead. Okay, everyone knows that.
yeah,
But I'm adding something else to it. I'm saying ki, uh, the potato is not dead; it's alive. You boil it so that it dies.
right.
Just bullshitting my way out of that situation. Okay, so here the idea was, okay, what if I'm in that situation? What if I somehow got into that show, and then the judges come to me and they're trying to have this geeky conversation, but I'm just saying stuff that's blowing their mind in a really weird way.
Makes
Um,
sense, man.
Yeah.
that's interesting. I like the two jokes that you had because one is funnier than the other. Like for some reason, the cutting onions to therapy is funnier
Yeah.
than boiling a potato to dead.
Yeah.
I can't put my fingers on why, besides the fact that maybe it's more recognizable and it's a more A to C leap than you're going boiling potatoes, lobster, death. I think it might be too much. That's my theory. And my other theory is, um, I guess, crying while in therapy is a darker thing than like you're more emotionally attached to that than a dead potato. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I'm just making that up. I don't actually know.
Okay, this is one thing that you pointed out. In both of these jokes, the task that I'm doing is quite simple,
Yeah,
but the reason or the explanation that I'm giving for those tasks are, those are not absurd, but those are like those don't fit, right? Like if you don't want to cry during when you cut onion, is
yeah,
you go to therapy.
yeah,
Therapy, crying, you associate crying with therapy, right?
yeah,
And you also associate crying with onion as well.
yeah,
So here, I guess association comes into play. They are able to see the association.
yeah,
Whereas in the dead potato thing, it's just me saying that the potato is alive and I want to kill it. So before I eat it. So it's
yeah.
just that I'm ending it right there. There's something when I bring therapy into play, I'm saying that there's something wrong with you. It's not the onion that's making you cry. It's your own emotions that's making
Yeah,
you cry. That's
it's
the
more of a roast. That's what it is.
Yeah. Whereas killing is just like a simple thing. Like I want to
Yeah,
kill that potato. That's it.
yeah. Ah, yeah, no, that makes sense because now it's about that character and you're just like it's that superiority kind of thing where you're like I'm better than that character so it makes me laugh, right? Or
Yeah.
you're uncomfortable with, the times that you went to therapy and cried so that makes you laugh, right? I think there's two.
In the first joke, the joke is on you, while in the second one, the joke is on the potato.
Yeah. On you
So
as a listener
yeah, like
when I'm
the
hearing that joke.
the reason why you're crying while cutting this onion is something is wrong with you. You
Yeah.
have to go to therapy.
Yeah.
Whereas in the second joke, it is that the reason why you boil this potato is because you want to kill it. So here in the second joke, the killing thing is being done to the potato, whereas
Mm.
in the first joke, the crying is done by you because you don't go to therapy or something like that. Here the target of the joke is different. In the
Yeah.
first one, the target of the joke is the person, the audience. In the second one, it is the potato.
God, that is something that yeah, I see in the feedback form or not the feedback forums, but the joke writing forums, the workshops where people will just use simple puns and you're
Yeah,
like, what's the target here? Like I get your association, but I'm not laughing because it's just a thing. It's just like a clever association, but there's no cynicism, there's no evil in it at all, and
yeah,
it's not funny to me. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. That's
No, no, no. It makes perfect sense. It's like what you're doing is you're basically using the rule of well, there's no rule, but like you're using associations and people's expectations, and then flipping that. It's
Yeah.
misdirection, but it's done so well in this joke, the onion crying one, that not only have you juxtaposed an emotion with an action, but also you've added elements to it that aren't obvious in the first action. So when someone is crying because they're cutting onions, the audience has this picture, but then you say that the cure or what they should do is therapy, and then people are like, oh shit, so then they start laughing at the joke. But it makes perfect sense. It's associations, misdirections, using people's expectations. Yeah, makes. I'm writing all this down, man. This is a good. It's a
There's
good.
another joke that I have, which basically follows the same trope. So this joke is based on a real event. Okay, so one time I was talking to my friend, and we were standing near the staircase. Okay, and we were just talking and laughing. I was making them laugh, and there was this one guy who was laughing the hardest. And while like when he was laughing, he was also going back. So he slipped and he fell down. Okay, and he injured himself, and then he started crying. Okay, so the first thought that came to my mind was, wait, you're laughing one moment and then you're crying the next. Are you bipolar? Okay, that was the thought that came to my mind.
Yeah.
Here, the obvious thing is, okay, he's laughing now because I'm making him laugh. Then he slipped, he injured himself, he feels pain, so he's crying.
Right.
Those are two different scenarios. But I am adding something else to it. I am adding, okay, you're changing emotion like every minute, okay, every second. Are you bipolar? This
Right.
is not you hurting yourself. This is you being. It is a mental illness. It's not a physical thing that you're reacting to. So
Gotcha.
this is kind of like the association that I'm trying to do.
Mm. Mm.
Nah, it's good. It's
And
good. Associations, misdirections, audience expectations. I feel like if you were to put what you just said in a graph, because I always picture it being some sort of graph, it would be, I guess, the action and the expectation, and then the other expectation that people don't realize they have, so that the joke goes here as opposed to going this way. So
Yeah.
that Mr. I feel like at some point we'll be able to create charts about this, because not only is it mathematical or scientific, there's formulas that once you do break down these things, you start picking up on. But I'm just trying to make sense of it now, because right now I just need to process what it is, and how I can apply that to my own set. But yeah, I'm following the principles. It makes perfect sense.
Okay.
You said you have a premise that you've been working on.
Yeah, I do. The
Okay.
problem with that one is that I'm more of a joke writer than a storyteller. The problem I have is I overstuff the story with jokes, so the essence of the story is gone. So the
Ah,
audience doesn't connect with it as much as I want them to.
Cool. That's fun. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nelson can probably help you out with that. I'm writing a script, and so I know a little bit about storytelling. Well, we could figure it out. What's
Yeah.
the premise?
The premise is basically it's based on a true story, but it's my version of it. So I was on a date with this girl. We've been dating for like 3 months, and one day she invites me back to her place, and we go back to her place, and she has a dog. Okay, and I really love dogs. But the problem here is I didn't know that her dog was neutered. Okay, she didn't tell me. I
Okay.
didn't know that. So anyway, so I'm hanging out with the dog. We are playing with the dog. She gave me a couple of his toys. She gave me a frisbee and his tennis balls, and asked me to keep him busy while she got changed. And I was doing that. I was playing with the dog. I threw the ball, and he was going and he was getting it. And I threw the ball a little too hard, and it got lost. Okay. So now we are both searching for the ball, and that's when she entered, and she hears me asking the dog, "Where are your balls?" Okay. I can't find the balls. Okay. So when it actually happened, it was just a fun misunderstanding. So she just laughed it off. But what I want to do it with it is, I in the story I want her to get mad
Yeah.
and I want her to freak out.
Okay,
and she starts shouting at me, and I want to play with that misunderstanding.
got it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Fun. Okay.
Okay. Oh, geez, that sounds so good. I already have some notes that I came up with just from listening to you tell that story. So, how I would do that, right? Would the way you tell this, the way you told the story, that's perfect. You know, in fact, what you can do is you get to the point where the girl comes in and you say, "Where are your balls?" And she gets mad, but you continue saying it for like
Yeah.
3 more lines up until you both then accept that you're talking about different things. So find 3 ways of saying like where are your balls or staying
Yeah.
in a particular moment a little longer. You
Yeah.
see, are you with me here?
Yeah. So the way I used to do this is I used to do that whole misunderstanding thing, and then she would just get mad and she would start shouting, "Why are you being an asshole?" She just starts shouting, "He just lost his balls." And I would be like, technically, he didn't lose his balls. You cut them off. There's a difference there. Like, it's not like the dog just woke up one day and he was like, "Where are my balls?" Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
but yeah. So what you want me to do is to stretch that misunderstanding a little more, right? Like to
So
uh,
what I'm saying is, so when she comes into the room and
hmm,
she hears you go like, "Where are your balls?" She should say something that makes that reaction a little longer. So when that confusion, "Where are your balls?" You can say that statement 3 different ways. Like, "Where are your balls? We're both looking for his balls." Or like, "What type
okay,
of
okay, got
balls? The big one, the small one?" Find
it.
characteristics about balls that you
Oh, the
can
big one
then
of the
add.
small. It's funny.
Like, by the
That's
way,
good.
what type of balls? The small one, the small, yeah.
And you're like, they're both the same size. It's like, I'm so confused.
The one with hair on it,
No,
right?
the one with hair on it. I know. That's exactly what I was gonna say too. The one
The
with
one.
hair on it.
So the balls thing, just talking about where are your balls, you can say that statement 3 different ways and get reactions for every different way you say that statement. So that's a good.
Hmm.
That's hilarious.
That,
The other thing I was gonna say is, um, Jim Gaffigan is like a one-liner, two-liner kind of comedian.
yeah.
But he does tell stories. But the way he does it is he'll give a detail of the story, and then he'll make a one-liner, and then another detail of the story, and then make a one-liner. And another detail of the story, and make a one-liner, right? And I think Nate Bargatze does the same thing with his Starbucks joke. I don't know if you've heard that one.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, I did.
too, right? Like at the end of
Hmm.
Tennessee Kid, um, he does that Starbucks joke, and
Yeah.
yeah, so he breaks down just every single piece of that event, and I think that would suit your style of comedy because you're such a great one and two liner comedian that you can be like, like I was dating this girl and she had a dog first of all, and then whatever your joke would be there, and then
Hmm.
you go into the second part. Yeah, like I was playing with, I was throwing the ball back and forth with him, and then kind of comment on like what why do dogs like playing with balls? That's weird, blah blah blah, right? Like whatever your one
Right.
liner, two liner jokes are. And then he lost his ball, so we were both looking for his balls, right? And then she came in, and then you have that whole misunderstanding, right? Um, and then you can comment on like girls and guys, like why do we fight over balls, blah blah, whatever you're. I mean, like that's where the craft is going to come in, but that's the
Yeah.
structure of how you can make sure that um, the story doesn't go away, you know,
Yeah.
because you
Um,
keep coming back to each event.
I was also going to add, what's your emotion behind it? So earlier on, Mitch and I were talking about how taking an emotion behind the joke. So perhaps the fact that dogs get their balls cut off, maybe that's something that pisses you off, then that feeling of getting pissed off that, wait a minute, why did you cut this Bose dogs off? That spills into the argument that you have with your girlfriend, so that at the start of the joke, it's about you arguing about the confusion, whereas suppose then it then spills into, why did you even cut his balls off in the first place? That sort of thing. Like, the emotion behind it would guide you towards the different ways in which to present that joke.
Okay, yeah. The way I used to start this joke was like this. Like I used to just tell the audience, uh, before I start this story, I just want to clarify that I didn't know her dog was neutered. Okay. This used to get a laugh because I'm already defending myself before telling the story.
Yes.
And then I used to ask them, do you guys all know what neutered means? Some would say no. So I would explain. So what happens is when a male dog hits puberty, they find the human leg very sexually appealing and they start humping it. I don't know. They might have foot fetish. I don't know. So that's how I used to explain it. I used to start with explaining the
That's
whole
fun.
concept of being neutered,
Yeah.
and then I would start with the story that we've been dating for 3 months. I really like dogs, and then it would go till that point.
Now, what makes you think that the narrative is getting lost?
Uh, I guess I've overstuffed the joke. Like I could see, okay, if I had to tell the joke right now, I would say it like this: that um, I've been dating this girl for like 3 months, and one day she invited me back to her place, and I was really excited because I finally get to meet her dog. That was the only reason I was dating her, because she had a dog. In fact, that's my dating strategy. I go on Google and I type hot girls with dogs near my area. Like that's my strategy. So I go to her place and she opens the door and there's a golden retriever was there. And those are the best kind of dogs. Okay, I didn't say that. Hitler said it. Hitler said that the master species has golden hair. Okay, I just think Hitler is misunderstood. And then I say that the dog came, he introduced himself, smelled my ass, and then I was petting that dog. I love petting dogs more than petting babies, and I really wanted this dog to like me, because if he likes me, then she'll like me, and if she likes me, then the dog will like me even more. Like the problem what I was facing here is I was constantly talking about how I like the dog. Okay, rather than giving any characteristics to the girl, like she had no persona, she was just there, invisible. So the audience, so when I would bring her back and she would get mad, the audience didn't know anything about her. So that part wouldn't connect. It's not that the jokes aren't there; it's just that they aren't invested enough in the girl.
Yeah.
To yeah. So that's the problem.
I think what's happening here is that when the actual situation happened, when the reality happened, right? The funny thing was the confusion over the statement, "Where are your balls?" Right? And that's where you started writing the joke. But now you now realize that since this is a true story, since this is something that actually happened, it doesn't play out in the way a normal joke normally plays out, where there's a setup or like there's a beginning, middle, and an end. In this situation, the funny part seems to be in the middle. So it's either you decide where you want the joke to be, where you want the punchline to be from the start, so that the whole joke from the beginning kind of points or hints that it's going to end here. So that the story has a beginning, middle, and an end. So that you start off talking about how you really love dogs, and that's why you were in this relationship. But then you end up with a point that goes back to how you were right in how you really love dogs and how that's really what you're looking for in a relationship, so that the premise makes sense at the end, so that when people listen, the story has a beginning, middle, and an end. So in a way, when you do think back on this joke, just think about what you want the funniest part to be, or what you want the reader or the listener to get at the end, the point that you're trying to make. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the
thing is,
point
I
that
guess another thing that I'm doing is I'm deviating too much from the story. Like the Hitler joke, even if it's a joke, it's still deviating from the main story. I'm going on a tangent, then talking about Hitler, then coming back to the story. I had this other line which was the dog was just sitting there licking his own dick. I don't know why dogs do that. It's probably self love. Like that's it. That was the short joke. That
Yeah.
I most of the time I noticed that that joke would work, but the Hitler joke wouldn't work.
The Hitler joke is so great. I love it. How
Yeah,
many times did you try that out? The Hitler joke.
maybe like 50, 60. A lot of times I don't
In
remember.
front of 50, 60 times in front of different audiences like that? Like,
Yeah.
is it Zoom audiences or what is it?
No, 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 no. This is something that I've been trying to do for like the past 8 months. I wrote it like 8 months ago, but it's still, it's not the, it's not that this joke doesn't work. It's not working the way I want it to.
Which
Is
is
it is it because
Yeah,
you see Hitler?
yeah. I guess maybe that's the part where they are not the reason why I find the Hitler thing funny is because of that whole golden hair thing.
Mm,
That makes sense from a logical point of view. And
yeah.
then the line that I use after that is I just think Hitler was misunderstood. To
yeah.
me, this line is funny,
I think it's funny.
but
It,
the audience doesn't laugh at this.
Really.
It's not that they're getting defensive or they think it's insensitive. For some reason, they just don't think it's funny enough to get a laugh.
but that's just like culture though. That's like you get that anywhere. I feel like that little tag, the subject matter is so controversial that sometimes it invokes emotion in people that take their way that take their attention away from the joke. Like by
Yeah,
the time you finish that statement or you finish the joke, they're probably still thinking about what you said about Hitler rather than following through with following you to the end of the joke. And the reason why that is because some certain topics or some certain subjects invoke so much emotion from people that once they hear that trigger word, they're not able
yeah,
to follow you through the rest of the joke because already you know how people are, man. People are looking for something to get offended over,
yeah.
so
So do you think it would help to decrease the amount of punchlines in between your events, your major events in the story? Um, I don't know. Yeah, I mean that's a good question because, like, I was just watching Kevin Hart's the two stories, the canoe, not the canoe story, the horseback riding story,
Huh,
um, and then the whitewater rafting story.
huh.
He definitely has punchlines in between, but mostly it's all act outs and like exactly what happened, right? Like he's a very
Yeah,
storytelling comedian. Whereas Jim Gaffigan has stories like that, but he's a very like punchline driven comedian. I think Seth Meyers' Lobby Baby is probably a good one to watch too for that because
yeah,
he does have his whole narrative of like how his baby was born in a lobby.
yeah,
But he's a very punchline driven comedian as well, or a 1-2 liner comedian as well. So maybe watch those and see like which one kind of jives with you.
uh, b-
yeah.
before we move on, I just want to double check, where do you want the joke to end yourself? Like what's the
Um, I guess I want the joke to end when I say, uh, when I do that thing, like the dog didn't lose his balls. You cut them off. And then the main punchline where I say that the dog didn't just wake up one day and he was like, where am I balls? I wanted to end there, but it seems like that punchline is not one of those punchlines where you end a story on. It's not a big laugh or anything. It is funny. They do laugh, but I get bigger laughs in other parts rather than this part. So that is what bothers me.
It's gonna be a tough one, but I see where you're going with it. I think the biggest laugh of the joke, that joke that you told, comes from the argument that you have with the girl. So
Yeah,
try to stretch that as much. Then, if you can get laughs in that section, then I feel like even if you end the joke by saying, all right, those are just my feelings on that subject matter, moving on, like sometimes that is acceptable because I've seen Trevor Noah do this. Sometimes he does a really funny story, right? One of these things that happen in real life where the funniest part is in the middle and it's not presented itself in the classic joke format. So what he does is he tells the story, people are laughing, blah, blah, blah. And then once he finishes that part of the joke, he just moves on and say, oh, now next joke. See, what you want is just that transition. So I feel like if people have laughed enough at the setup, the jokes in the middle, if the story doesn't have a perfect ending, but if it does have laughs, you can just go like, hey, those are my thoughts on that subject matter. Now, moving on to the next.
Trevor Noah, I think the best story I've heard him tell is the snake story. Have you heard this one?
Yeah, the one in theater.
I think that's a good one to study too, because he does have that really awesome narrative. And then that one's a benign retaliation joke as well. Do you know what I mean by benign retaliation?
Sort of like it's that story, right? The one he did in his last special, the first. Like he went to watch a snake charmer or something, and the snake was got loose or something.
Yes. But he has a lot of great punchlines in that story as well. There's a lot of characters that he builds, lots of POV. Like the thing about making stories funny is changing POVs as well, right? So I think he does a great job in that one bit because he talks about himself and then the French family and then other people in the back and then just Black people in general. Like we sit in the back, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are y'all doing? So I think that's really awesome. And I feel like, that's a good one to study as well, as far as narrative goes. I was like so enthralled in that story itself, you know? And then the best part was when he got back at that French family as well, right? That's the funniest part to that, right? And that's what I'm talking about with benign retaliation. When the first person comic gets insulted in some way, and then you get back, that person gets back at that person. It's a great joke, right? So.
And those are the type of jokes sometimes that I notice that stand-up comedians get a round of applause on. Because sometimes the joke in itself doesn't have to end on a perfect story, because I guess the crowd will just start clapping and then they'll transition onto the next joke. So also pay attention to how a lot of these comedians finish their stories, because sometimes they'll just move on to the next joke. And in our minds, we won't even care about how that story ended because of how good the storytelling is. And also that the most important part has already been covered, you know, that sort of thing. So it's just these transitions and, you know, how people move from one joke to the next, and also telling real actual stories there.
Yeah, maybe it would also be funny if I add the thing that Matt said, that if I add a different point of view, maybe if I see the story from the point of view of the dog, maybe I can explore that as well.
Yeah. So Nate Bargatze is the best at that, I think. There is one bit that he does about the In the Park home run. I don't know if you've heard this one. I think it's on his first or second album. But he talks about how he sucked at sports and how he I guess hit a in the park home run, and he's talking about like rounding the bases, and every base he rounds, he's like, I was thinking this, the umpire was thinking this, the audience was thinking this, right? And every time you get a shift in POV, it's like another opportunity to surprise the audience with something, you know? And I think you can get laughs that way as well. So, and then that way you're not losing the narrative, and you're also getting your punchlines in as well. So that might
and
work.
also, if you need a good joke about a dog, right? Chris Tucker has this funny story he tells when he went to Michael Jackson, when he went to someone's house with Michael Jackson, and then in the joke is talking about how him and Michael Jackson were in this, how Michael Jackson started singing, and then there was this person, and then him and the dog are just looking at each other like, can you believe what's going on? That sort of thing. That joke gets so much, you know, you can at least work out what the dog is going to say in your particular joke, but that's something that, it can point you in the.
That's true, man. I'm so jealous of people that have like dog stories. I'm not around dogs at all, you know, and that's like, it's such a universal thing. Like we love, you know, Americans love dogs. People in general just love
Yeah.
dogs.
Yeah.
You know? And so when you can personify a dog, people are just like, yes, I love that character, and I'm gonna laugh at everything that dog says. It doesn't even matter, you know.
Good to start on a dog joke, man. They
I
love
I don't
that.
have any dog jokes. I'm not around bitches like that.
I got a few dogs.
99 problems with a bitch ain't one. Cool. That was great. Anything else you want to talk about with that premise? I think that was decent.
Mm, okay. Okay. Yeah. Another thing that I was thinking, I guess I hinted at this, that I don't give enough personality to the girl, so the people, the audience, aren't invested in her. So I was thinking maybe I can, instead of just directly starting with the dog story, I can uh, say some, I can, I don't know, do some other bit where I'm talking about that girl in particular, like maybe how I wooed her or something like that. Maybe give enough personality to the girl in some other bit so that this bit works. So
That
that,
sounds good, but the problem is, if it's already a long joke, make sure that what you say about the girl gets you laughs, so that you're
yeah,
not filling the joke with extra statements. You're filling it with laughter as well, because, like you said, the audience is not invested in the girl in the joke as it is, but that's because they're there to be entertained. They're not there to find out about the girl or anything. So make sure that the characteristics that you give her are funny, so that it justifies you adding it into comedy. Because I understand the need to talk about the girl and give her characters and stuff like that. But if it's something that's not even gonna get a laugh, then there's no point, because the audience aren't there to get to know this girl. They're there to laugh. So do stretch it, but make sure you stretch it with funny stuff.
yeah.
So you
The
keep getting.
idea that I had in mind was when I saw Brent Moran's special, I noticed this one thing that he's acting the whole thing out rather than telling you what the person is like instead of saying that this person
Oh, yeah.
is I don't know, aggressive, he will say something, he'll say a dialogue that's aggressive. So
Um,
now instead of him telling you what the personality is, he is showing you what the personality is.
that sounds to me like he was using a storytelling technique, which is show but don't tell. And it's one of the
Yeah,
most effective ways of presenting information, where instead of listing things about people, you just present them in statements. But that does require good acting out and also good attention to detail. But yeah, he was doing the show but don't tell, or something like that. But it's
yeah,
more powerful to show rather than to tell.
Yeah.
yeah,
That reminds me of Sam Morril. Have you seen Sam Morril's YouTube special?
yeah,
Okay, cool. That one joke where he's spying on his neighbors.
yeah.
That's a
They're
great
fighting.
joke.
Yeah,
It's a great narrative, and then he also has his little punchlines in the middle. Uh, I think I like the one where he's like, "Hi, Samuel, neighbor, first time knocker, long time listener." It's a great joke, but he does show more than tell in that one as well, right? I think he
yeah,
shows them fighting each other, and then he has this little commentary on the side too. So yeah, and that's exactly why I told you Samarpan is like I didn't want bits, because even to talk about one liner could take 20 minutes, because there's
yeah,
so much thought that goes into 5 words, you know.
yeah,
Like that onion joke is very short, but there's so much you have to put together in order to get that laugh. That's
yeah,
such a great misdirection. So, and that's kind of the whole point of the show is actually, um, we can learn from everyone. It doesn't have to be like these Netflix comedians or anything. Like, I think everyone can have a moment of brilliance. And if you actually know what you're doing at that moment, like we've only done 2 episodes with guests, and I've already learned like 15 new concepts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's great, man. Thank you so much for coming on, dude. I appreciate it. I
Thank you
know.
for having me, guys.
What'd you
It was
say?
fun. It was fun. It was fun. Thank
Yeah,
you for having me.
for sure.
problem.
Anything you want to plug right now?
I don't really have anything to promote, but yeah, if you want, you can maybe follow me on Instagram.
Do you put
My
your one-liners on Instagram or Twitter or anything like that?
no, but I'll start doing that.
Please do. Please do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So my
Said
Insta ID is samarpan.bose.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely have it in the links below.
I'm just gonna look for it. What is it?
Samarpan.bose.
Cool. And then when the country opens up again, man, visit me in Chicago. We'll start hitting some mics over here, dude. You will crush.
Yeah.
I've seen some horrible comedians around here. You'll crush all of them, guaranteed.
Dude, this is so sick, man. I've just checked out your stuff, man. I like this is good.
Cool, man. Well,
Good.
there's nothing else left to say. I think we don't even have a sign off for the show yet, but
We got some music playing.
yeah,
That's in my time.
yeah, that's been my time.
That's just, thank
The
you.
other thing is like we can't even say good night because like it's morning
Yeah.
in some places because it's an international comedy academy. So, yeah, in London, yeah,
It's still bright outside.
we need that lighting there. Cool, man. Well, thank you again, Samarpan. Appreciate you. Come again, whenever you
Yeah,
have
sure.
20, 30, 40 minutes or whatever. So,
Yeah.
all right, cool.
See you
Talk
later,
to you
man.
later.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.